Hey there. Let's do a podcast about parlays, about betting, about odds, have a discussion about money. Because I actually avoid this topic a lot when I do work on the sports algorithms. I kind of view it as two separate things, meaning one of these tasks is to take statistics and data about different sports and different teams and try to get it to commingle and talk together and create predictions for upcoming games. That's one element of this. The other part of it is looking at what popular consensus is about what a price on that outcome is. And that's where the betting comes into play. It's different from saying, oh, it looks like Dallas is going to beat Seattle today. However, Dallas is a little injured and the algorithm only says that they win this game in kind of a lower scoring game by 2 points. So you can get 7 or 8 points with Seattle right now due to the injuries on Dallas. There's actually a fairly good chance, looking at this prediction about WNBA game, that Seattle will probably cover today and be a little closer than the odds makers think, because this margin right here is only 2.6%. And when we look at historical margins on games, you'll see that falls way down here, essentially, over the last few days. There are other games where there are different margin levels, and big margin levels really win all the time. Lower margin levels are a lot closer games. So let me kind of back up, but also talk about what this video is going to be about, which is the wagering element of this and not necessarily the prediction element of this, because I kind of have to separate the two a little bit. Like, Dallas is supposed to win this game, but Seattle plus 7 or 8 points, which is what you're offered right now, is a better actual bet on this game. So let's now get into the betting part. I wanted to provide something. I have done this previously off and on sporadically, where I give what projected picks of the day coming out of the algorithm are. And sometimes I try to keep it simple, and sometimes I get really complex. And you can go about it many different ways. But the point of this video is to show you, you have to have an idea of what you want out of this process. Meaning, if you want to put a lot of money on one outcome and watch one game and have a binary outcome of I won my game today or I lost my game today, then you don't want to do what I'm going to show in this video. That's for people that want to wager more. You're going to want to do something like this. You're going to want to look at the algorithm, for example, the baseball algorithm. You're going to want to look at this thing. You're going to want to look at the day's projections, and you're going to see stuff like big margins and big teams up here. And it's saying something like take Texas to win, or take Atlanta to win by a bunch, or take the Dodgers to win, right? It's going to be something like this. Texas is right on top. And let me explain, if you're doing betting that way, which is not what this video is about, but if you're doing betting that way, you want to approach it by doing something like that, or taking just Seattle plus 8.5. Although just Seattle in the WNBA game is not a great straight bet pick, because they're not supposed to win this game. And, you're relying on them being closer than the odds makers think. So if you did make only one WNBA bet for the day, it's probably that, which is them. But I digress. But back to MLB for a second, because this is where you have a bigger choice of games and you have supposedly the ability to isolate something more. Well, it is something like Texas to win, Texas to score runs, because of why? Because when you look at the algorithm, some things pop out. Meaning there was a change on Toronto, late change, that was not even recorded in the previous video I did today. And it was that Mitch White is pitching and his stats are bad. And guess what? If you take his last year's stats because you don't like his 3 innings and you want more, he was even worse. So this guy probably gives up runs. So all of a sudden, this completely switched to Texas is a very good pick, number 1 even, and Texas is going to put up runs. So now let's get into what this video is really about, which is, what did I do for the afternoon? I'm going to go out and I'm not going to pay attention to a lot of these games other than glancing at them on my phone. I'm not going to watch any of them. Probably going to be out walking in a park, right? It's time to do something on a nice weekend day. But if you want to try to throw something out there and wager on something, like I said, what are your goals here? Well, my goal is to not wager a lot and have a chance at winning an amount of money that I'd be like, wow, I won a decent amount of money today. Like that's the way I want to look at it. I'm willing to take more than one pick. I'm willing to have days where I lose completely. I'm also not going to wager a lot of money because I do not want to be upset at about the amount of money that I wagered. I'm going to wager more than $1, but let's talk about how you structure your wager and what you can expect to happen with the types of picks that I have made. Now, I've chosen 5 of them because this was reasonable stuff that I saw in the middle of the day. There's that WNBA pick, a pick that I feel like you're going to win more than 50% of the time, but not that much more. So you may or may not win that game. We'll see. Next one, Detroit, Minnesota. I said over 4.5 runs in the first 5 innings. Why did I do that? I looked at this. I saw expecting 9 or 10 runs in this game, seeing a bad ERA for Detroit. And also Detroit recently, just because I've been paying attention to scores recently, has put up a couple runs and won the first 2 games of this series. You got limited innings pitched for Minnesota's pitcher. Its ERA is okay. It's saying some runs here, and it's saying that you probably see runs out of Minnesota early because of the bad ERA and record and stuff for Joey Wentz. So I said, all right, well, if you're expecting 9 or 10 runs in the game, how many are going to happen in the first half? Probably 5 or more. So I went with the over 4.5 wager, something you're not going to win every time because it's runs. You don't know. But I chose an alternate one because I was like, I think I don't want it to win at 5. I didn't want to lose or push at 5. So I took the alternate run line. It's -154. There you go. All right. That's that game. Cubs 1.5 and under 4.5 in the first 5 innings. Why did you do that? Looking at the algorithm, it's showing a really good pitching matchup in this game. Justin Steele and Kyle Gibson going. Says these teams can hit a little bit, but the wind is blowing in 6 miles an hour in Wrigley, and it's showing a lower scoring game that somehow it's more of a pitcher's duel, and it's related to the pitchers from the first 5 innings that have ERAs lower than the bullpen ERA. So I'm thinking this game stays kind of close in the first 5 innings and probably doesn't have a ton of runs. It says Chicago is actually going to win this game, so I made this wager even more likely to win by taking Chicago plus 1.5 and under 4.5. So it's saying this, the best thing can happen here is like 0-0 through the first 5 innings and you win. It's a pretty good line. Not going to win it every time, but we'll see what happens there. Next, I have a soccer wager, which is the Columbus Crew, because it's the only MLS game that the algorithm clearly has an underdog winning by a lot. Really likes the Crew here. And so I took the tie no bet, which of course you don't ever win all the time in soccer, which is really, really tough. And then we have the Texas Rangers scoring runs because of the Mitch White situation, right, for Toronto. So hopefully you win all of these, right? Well, how are you going to structure your wager and how much you're going to wager? Let's say I've got $20 for this today. We can go almost like that, $21. Awesome. Wins $206 if you get all 5. Excellent. 8-1. Love it. Hope that happens. But it's probably not going to happen. Probably not going to win. It's very tough to win everything. So let's start thinking about what might happen. Maybe Columbus ties. That becomes a push here. Not necessarily a loss, but a push. You don't get paid. That brings you down to only $117, 4-1. What if the Cubs score a bunch of runs and they go over this and this becomes a loss? Now you're barely winning $8. And what if in Detroit and Minnesota don't get there? Now you're losing about 65%. So in most instances, if you can go 2-2-1 or 3-2, oh no, here's a 3-2 where you do not make money. Interesting. So if you lose this game outright, you do not make money. So you can see that wow. It makes you want to potentially change the odds that you're getting paid on some of these lines, right? These have to be really, really good picks because you get really punished for losing. So understand that at a structure like this, and you can change that structure around. For example, let's make the soccer game a loss again for a second. So now you're 3-2, but you hit your 3 favorites. This is kind of your standard scenario. If you choose 5 games and 3 of them are favorites and 2 of them are underdogs, you win 3 and you lose 2. That's kind of like a standard result. How can you make it so that you make money in this situation instead of lose money? Well, what if you just bet the twos? Okay, what if you bet just the twos here? You almost break even. How about that? Very, 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 very close. And so it shows you how your payouts are going to differ. What happens if you just play the threes here? Yeah, you lose a lot more. So it shows you how advantageous it is to play the parlay combinations that are much closer to one, and that the advantage for the house, meaning that the sports book or whatever that you're wagering with, their advantage goes up dramatically the higher the parlay you try to play, right? So if you care, if you say you're wagering more and it's not about $20, but you're going to put like 500 on this, right? Well, or like 250 or something, right? In this situation, you can see you're going to lose 37% here. To be safe, I should say, you're supposed to do something like this. Whereas you can see if you go 3-2 in this situation, you still only lose 10%. So you really want to weight it on the lower ones. And I haven't made a wager yet. These are just the picks that I came up with because it's about time I have to do that. That you'll see you want to weight it like this if you really want to limit your risk at 3 and 2. How much is that gross payout though? It's about 3.8 to 1 this way. And if you want to structure it in another way, you'll see what the payout is. Like, how good of a day do you want to try to have, and how much do you care about what you're risking? See, this pays like 7-1 if you catch all 5 this way. And that's a much bigger payout than what we just had. 1992, yeah. So I just wanted to kind of show the options that you have when it comes to wagering, the advantage to playing the lower numbered round robin parlays if you really care about how much you're going to make or lose. Your limited potential risk liability when you lose games. It's kind of what I wanted to bring up. And that's how you do it. I mean, I won't do it every day because, not every day is a Saturday where I'm sitting around wanting to pay attention to this or, keeping an eye on it. A day where there's day games and, you can kind of follow it for the day and all the algorithms are done. There's not that many sports going on. So I just want to provide that to everyone. And, you can purchase copies of this round robin file if you want to use it yourself. You can purchase any copy of the algorithm if you want to follow a specific sport and not follow everyone slightly like I end up doing. All right. So good luck, everybody. May all your picks be winning.